How's it going, guys? It's Diego from the Foot and Fist Sports Network, and it's time to talk about the Premier League once again. And the first game I want to talk about is Liverpool versus Chelsea. And in particular, I want to talk about how the rules don't really apply to all managers in the same way. I mean, if you take a look at what Jurgen Klopp did in that game against Chelsea, he got probably this close, like within inches, to the fourth official's face when Diego Costa missed his penalty. And if anybody else had done that, and in particular somebody like Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola or probably even Arsene Wenger, because he's in a bit of a trouble, if any of those managers would have done that, they would have been sent off, hit with a fine, and suspended for at least 2 or 3 games. That's the nature of the Premier League, and that's the nature of most big sports organizations nowadays, especially American sports. So it was very, very odd to see the Jurgen Klopp, a guy who was obviously very emotional, not even get punished in any way whatsoever. And it was even weirder to see that the broadcast, at least the broadcast I was watching, didn't mention it in the least. And it was just bizarre. And I'm starting to think that it might just be because of the fact that Jurgen Klopp is a charismatic guy. And I think that he might be a little bit favored by the media in terms of how bad they talk about him, how harsh they are with him. Because if you look at how bad his 2017 is going, he only won 1 game in all of January. If that had happened to Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola or Antonio Conte or any other manager of at least on par with Jurgen Klopp's stature, if not bigger, they would have been roasted. They would have been attacked. They probably would have been their head would have been called for. I mean, that's just the reality of the Premier League and of all big sports right now. But Jurgen Klopp, for some reason, hasn't really been getting this type of punishment or this type of reaction from journalists, from media, and just in general, it seems like people sort of have a different outlook on what he should be doing and what are the consequences of his results and of his performances. And I personally, whatever team his managers all side, I am a fan of Jurgen Klopp. I loved him in his Borussia Dortmund days. I actually, even though he's annoying because he's a Liverpool manager, I still do like how emotional he is and how much he is passionate about his club and what he's doing. But at the same time, if you look at what other people do, you have to have the same rules apply to everybody. Now, we're not talking about a guy like maybe Fellaini who goes in and hits people with elbows. At that point, you lose the benefit of the doubt. And sure, Jose Mourinho, he is constantly, or not really constantly, but he's been known to get in people's faces and really be sort of a guy who complains a lot and gets in people, and he complains to the fourth officials and stuff like that a lot. He's a guy who has a lot of antics in his past, but at the same time, you can't punish him more harshly than you do Jurgen Klopp. Especially because Jurgen Klopp didn't even get punished from that. At least I don't recall him being punished for anything like that. And it's just kind of weird. It's just very bizarre. And don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those guys that wants to see people, players, managers getting punished for trash talking or shit talking, because I'm actually one of those guys who really loves it. I mean, if you look at what sports used to be built on, whether it be NBA or football, whatever it was, you always had these players that were very, very in your face, and they were masters of trash talking. I mean, Michael Jordan, who is considered one of the greatest athletes of all time by pretty much everybody, regardless of what you know about the sport, he was a master at getting in people's heads. Same thing with another basketball player, Larry Bird. Same thing with players like Roy Keane, who wasn't necessarily a trash talker, but he was always in your face, getting on your nerves, and a lot of times that drove people to make mistakes, and that got people red cards, and that was a big part of playing in that era, whether it be NFL, NBA, football, whatever type of sport you're talking about, that was always a huge part. And with things being so PG right now, and nobody wanting to see any trash talking, everybody's supposed to be perfect role models and stuff like that, all these sports organizations want to be crystal clean. It's really aggravating, especially because, a lot of this stuff isn't really that bad. A lot of the things that go on aren't that bad. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that getting in somebody's face like that, especially a fourth official who doesn't really have any impact on the game, it's kind of bad. He should probably be not really suspended, but he should be fined, or at least he should be punished. Maybe get a yellow card. That's something they might want to bring in with managers. Once you get 3 yellow cards, maybe to skip a game, or maybe 5. But at the same time, I don't think it was that bad. But if you look at what other people like Mourinho are punished for, it's nowhere near. What Mourinho gets punished for is nowhere near as bad as what Jurgen Klopp did. So I'm really confused at that, and it was really confusing about how nobody was really talking about it. Now, I think Eurosport talked about it a little bit, but other than that, I didn't really see a whole lot about it. So it was just kind of weird. Now, the game itself was, and I apologize for that long-ass rant. Now, the game itself was actually pretty decent. The biggest thing I want to talk about right now, apart from the whole Jurgen Klopp thing, is Diego Costa really getting hit by karma, and that was one of those things that really showed you that karma is a bitch. Now, Diego Costa, in my opinion, took a dive. If you look at the clips, sure, the broadcasters I was watching were talking about how it looked to them like there was a touch, but I don't really see it. It looks like, I can't remember if it was Lovren, I think it was, who stuck out his leg. It looked to me like he clipped the ball, and Diego Costa saw the opportunity to take a dive, and being as good of a player as he is, and being as much of a twat of a player as he is, he's an expert at that stuff. So the referee fell for it, he took a dive. But Mignolet, of all people, who earlier in the game made an atrocious mistake to give Chelsea the 1-0 lead, saved the day. I mean, he went out there. It wasn't a great penalty from Diego Costa. It was pretty soft, but it was really low, which is generally hard for keepers to block when it comes to penalties. And it was aimed pretty well. It was heading more or less towards the bottom corner. And Mignolet did a great job of getting there before the ball was actually struck. It looked like maybe there was film about Diego Costa. I don't know where he usually takes his penalties, but Mignolet did a great job at that, and he really put off a pretty sensational save. So hats off to him for sort of redeeming what he did, but even then, the mistake he made early on in the game was atrocious. I mean, if you didn't see it, the free kick was about to be taken. Right when the whistle was blown, he inexplicably moved forward and was trying to tell his wall to move or something like that, but the free kick was taken. He was out of position. He was just standing there, didn't even know if the free kick was actually taken. Goal conceded. And Liverpool probably shouldn't have even gotten a draw. At least they probably should have gotten more out of that game. And what I mean by that is, yes, Chelsea had some good chances, but Liverpool didn't have any less quality on the ball, and it wasn't necessarily a very high quality game, but it was one of those games that was very, very fun. I actually really enjoyed it, being a neutral, because I mean, obviously Chelsea are at the top of the league, and I want United to win the league, even though that's probably not going to happen. Liverpool also being ahead of us, I didn't want either team to win. I wanted a draw, so I was pretty happy with the result. But overall, it was definitely the type of game that you don't feel like you wasted 2 hours of your life. And it was very, very entertaining. So hats off to both teams, and much respect to both teams, because realistically, that's the type of game that Liverpool could have blown. If you look at how bad they've been doing over January, that was a game that had the potential of them getting blown out. But the thing about Liverpool is that they've always, or at least in Jurgen Klopp, they seem to always perform well against the big teams. It's against the small teams that they blow it. And that's really what's been their problem this whole title run, or whatever you want to call it, the season so far. That's why I don't think they're going to be title contenders this season. And unless they bring in some players that really have the balls necessarily to have a title run, then I don't think they're going to be competing next season either, especially because Jurgen Klopp, as good as he is at what he does, he doesn't really seem to have like the adaptive style where he can adapt to various situations and really adjust to his team. He wants his team to play his way, and that's the only way that he wants them to play, much like Pep Guardiola, only Pep Guardiola has actually won things, and obviously he's had Barcelona and Bayern Munich, but at the same time, Jurgen Klopp, who has won the Bundesliga and did get to the Champions League final, but at the same time, Jurgen Klopp probably could do a little bit better with that team, but I think that next season we will really see what Jurgen Klopp is capable of in the Premier League once he has one more full transfer window that isn't a January transfer window, because everybody knows in January it's hard to bring in good players because of, European competition bans and stuff like that. Then you really have to basically only count the summer transfer windows, and I think that with one more, Jurgen Klopp could do a lot, but right now I think that Liverpool are going to have to pretty much be satisfied with getting fourth if they can achieve that. We know, there's so many teams right now that are competing for that top four spot. I think United are sixth, are only 5 points back, so it's pretty close, and anything can really happen there. They're only 5 points behind the second spot, so it's pretty close. So there's between second and sixth, there's a lot that can happen from now until the end of the season, especially in February, where there are teams like Manchester City, United, Arsenal. All these teams are going to have Europa League games. I think Tottenham as well are going to be in there. So all these teams are going to have Champions League and Europa League games. So, and plus there's the FA Cup. There's just a lot of games that are becoming towards these top level teams, and that's where we will see maybe Chelsea and Liverpool have the advantage because they don't have any European competitions and they aren't really in the cups anymore. Liverpool are out of both. EFL Cup, obviously, because it's only the final, and they just got knocked out of the FA Cup. And I think Chelsea are only in the FA Cup. Yeah, well, obviously, Chelsea won 4-0, and they aren't in the final. So, yeah, they are only in the FA Cup. So that might be an advantage for them, but at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. And I think that come March, we will really start to see where things are going to pan out. Now, the other game I want to talk about, and I've been talking about Liverpool for way too much. This is kind of sickening for me, but is United versus Hull City. And this is just one of those games that's very, very disappointed as a United fan. And I'm pretty sure this is probably how Arsenal feel right now, because if you look at Arsenal at the same time, they lost 2-1 to Watford in a game where they really could have gained some points on Chelsea. Chelsea were, I think, 13, something like that, points ahead of them. with them dropping points. 10 is a lot more reachable, or what is it, 9, 10, something like that, is a lot more, I guess you could say, brings a lot more optimism to the people that are behind them than actually conceding a point in a game that Chelsea dropped, especially because, the next fixture is Arsenal versus Chelsea. And that's one of those games that Arsenal are going to be motivated for, and that's where Arsenal generally perform. The big thing is going to be, what are they going to do? Are they going to be able to rebound from that loss? Are their players going to get motivated? And especially, is Alexis Sanchez going to have the motivation? Because we saw against Watford, he did work his ass off, but he had a very, very piss-poor performance. He loses the ball a lot, and that's not something that is very good when you have to consider Alexis Sanchez is by far Arsenal's best player. So are they going to be able to bounce back from that? I don't know. I think that they're probably not going to beat Chelsea. Chelsea are playing at home, so I think, at home. So that's going to be a tough thing for Arsenal to do, considering how good Chelsea are at the bridge, and regardless of where they are, Chelsea are just so good. So we'll see what happens. I don't think they're going to get the points out of that, and I think that will be title race over for them, just like most of the other teams right now. But if they can get a point, then there's still a little bit of hope maybe for them. But I think realistically, their fans, they're so used to this, so they all know what's going to happen. If they do start to get closer, they're going to collapse. And if the farther they get away from Chelsea, the better they're going to perform. That's just what Arsenal do. And that, like I said, that's sort of what United are doing right now. Every time they have a chance to make up points over their rivals and their title opposition, they make mistakes and they don't get the points. They always seem to drop points against these shitty teams. Hull City, we've had 4 games against them this season, and we've only won 2. We've won 2. We lost the other one and drew another one. And that's simply unacceptable. Now, sure, one of the losses was in the EFL Cup, and it was ultimately a useless fixture for Hull because we did go on to the final anyway. But still, Hull aren't a team that United need to be struggling with. Watford are not a team that Arsenal need to be struggling with. We're talking about these bad teams, and clubs like Arsenal and United simply should not be having trouble with these teams, especially in the Premier League. It's one thing to have trouble with in the Cup, where you aren't playing your best players or something like that, but in the Premier League, that's simply unacceptable. And overall, it was probably one of the worst performances we've seen under Jose Mourinho, because if you look at the earlier games in the season against Hull, where we won 1-0 at the last minute or the last 2 minutes, or if you see our games against Stoke earlier on, not the second one, but the first one, there was just a lot of attacking from United and just a lot of ideas, and it was just simply nothing to do. For some reason, the defenders always held up, and the keepers pulled off great games. And the keeper for Hull last night had a very good game, but still, there's no excuses for that. You should always be beating teams like Hull at home. If it was away, then fine, it's a little bit different. But at home, at Old Trafford, you have to be doing this. You have to be getting the results. You cannot be performing like you are right now. And if you look at how the crowd was reacting and stuff like that, there's just a lot of up and down emotions for United fans, and that never really leads to happiness, you know what I mean? That always leads to just like, damn, we get closer, but once we do start to get closer, we lose the next game or we draw the next game and we get farther, and it's really, really sad, and it's really hard to take. We're only 5 points behind second, but there isn't really a whole lot of optimism about that. Sure, we gained 1 point on Chelsea, but we could have gained a whole 2 points. We could have we didn't gain any points. Excuse me. We gained a point over Arsenal, but we could have gone 3 points closer to Arsenal. We could have gone a point closer to Chelsea, or 2 points closer to Chelsea, and we realistically cannot afford to be losing these games. I can't remember if that was our 9th or 10th draw at Old Trafford this season. That's Louis van Gaal type of shit. And the biggest thing about Louis van Gaal was that the fans, myself included, were very, very upset about the style of play. But, realistically, whether it's 0-0 or 1-1 or 2-2, it's still 1 point. So, is it really any better? It's really not. Performance-wise, yes, it might be more entertaining. But last night's game definitely wasn't more entertaining because that was just awful. But, this is a performance-based sport. Every sport is based on performance. It's not about how well you play. It's about what you achieve. Chelsea, when they were under Jose Mourinho, didn't exactly play the best football, but they achieved a lot. Not last season, obviously, but his other seasons, they did very well. A lot of times, there's teams like Inter back in the day when Jose had them too. They didn't play this great football, but they did get results. There's just a lot of teams that need to be doing that do that. United used to do that a lot under Ferguson. There were times where we simply wouldn't perform well, but we would always get the result, whether it be in Fergie time or whatever. They would always find a way. And right now, the team mentality just doesn't seem to be strong enough to get those results, and really they don't seem to be as strong as they used to be in the Ferguson era. Understand they've had 3 seasons of just piss poor performances, but at the end of the day, you have a great manager in Jose Mourinho. You have some really great players. You brought in immense players like Zlatan, Pogba, and Mkhitaryan. So there's no excuses for this. You have to be performing better at home, especially. It's one thing to draw away, but it's not. It's unacceptable to draw 10 times or 9 times at Old Trafford, and we're still in January, where that pretty much means that we've drawn a good probably half of our games at home, and that's atrocious. That's atrocious for a team like United. We're not a team that's mid-table that we'll see a lot of those games be positive results. We are a team that needs to be getting every single win at home, and that's just very poor, and it's very, very disappointing, especially because, like I said, things were looking very good. I mean, it was looking like we were actually going to start moving forward, but right now we are going to have to continue to deal with the goddamn sixth place jokes on Instagram. I see that everywhere on the stupid Insta troll pages. It's just nonstop six jokes about how we are always sixth, and it seems like that's probably going to be the case for a long time, because now I can't remember. I think we're 4 points behind City, maybe 5. And either way, we're like 5 points behind second, so it doesn't seem like we're really going to be getting any closer anytime soon. It's a shame, but you have to deal with the cards you're dealt, and unfortunately, that's just how things are going for United right now. And I do have faith in Jose. I have faith in the players. I'm just, there's still about half a season left, but we need to start getting these wins immediately. I mean, it's fine to win in cups, but I don't want to be a cup team. I have no interest in winning the EFL Cup if that means that you drop points in the Premier League. You can have the FA Cup, but you need to win the Premier League. You need to at least be competing for the top 4. At least, no, not in the top 4, excuse me. You need to be at least competing for the title if you're Man United. You cannot be accepting FA Cups, and you cannot be accepting EFL Cups as satisfaction and as success. You need to be competing for titles, and that's what we need to be getting back as a club and as a fan base. That's what we really need, and realistically, we have the money behind us, and we have all that. We all have everything that's needed. We have a coach, and we have the players. But right now, there's just something in there in the mentality that isn't strong enough, and that's something that really needs to be fixed. Probably bringing in some more players, and the big problem is fixing mental weaknesses is the hardest part in anything, in life, in sports, and whatever. Mental weakness is the hardest thing to deal with, and I hope to see Mourinho sort of fixing that, especially after we were on like a 16 or 17 game undefeated streak. But at the same time, if you aren't getting nothing but wins, or at least the majority of the games being wins, then it's really useless, because 1 point, no points. It's kind of the same thing. I'd rather have like 4 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw, as opposed to 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss, or whatever the sum would be. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. I'd rather have that type of situation. I'd rather go out on a shield and we're trying to win games, as opposed to being happy with draws. And I think that obviously Mourinho and the players and all that stuff, they aren't going to be happy with it. But at the end of the day, these motherfuckers are on Instagram. I'm talking to you, Pogba and Jesse Lingard. These motherfuckers are on Instagram dancing nonstop as if they're doing some amazing things, like everything's going so well for them. But no, they're Manchester United. They're the young players on the team, and they are the heart and soul of what the team's going to be in the future if they stay. And they're over there dancing and having these little dance celebrations in the locker room. And meanwhile, we're in 6th. So I think that there's some players in there that need to get their heads out of their ass and realize what club they're at. They're not at some mid-table teams that are happy with that. They're at one of the top clubs in the world, and we demand this type of stuff, and we demand people to actually put in all the effort they can, especially somebody like Pogba, who, as good as he is at times, he definitely makes a lot of mistakes, and he definitely doesn't seem like he is necessarily the most consistent guy, and he doesn't seem like he puts in as much effort as he probably could a lot of the times. That's it for the video. It's almost 20 minutes long, so hopefully you will stick to this, and if you are seeing this, then let me know in the comment section down below, and let me know if you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button as well if you did enjoy it. Please share with anybody that you think might be interested in this stuff. Share it anywhere you can. It's always very, very helpful for me, and I'm very thankful for that. Shout out to anybody who's been subscribing. I've been getting quite a few subscribers as of late. I'm at 48 right now, but not too long ago I was at like 30. So I mean, things are starting to build up for me. I'm really happy about that. So thank you to everybody that's subscribing, and thank you to anybody that will subscribe after this video. Like I said, guys, if you enjoyed it, please share it, and I will see you in the next video.